Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris here, and I wanted to take a minute or two to talk a little bit about Star Wars and the live action series that we've gotten in recent years and kind of where we're at with those, how good they've been at this point, what we sort of expect in the future, but sort of taking a step back and looking at those and looking at the content and talking about what the good looks like, what the bad looks like, kind of everything in between, and sort of ranking those to see where we're at. And a lot of people, I think, would argue right now that we're not in the best place with Star Wars, but I totally disagree with that. I think we're actually kind of in a golden era of Star Wars. I mean, again, I can vividly remember the original trilogy being a thing and this wide gap, when I was in middle school, high school, where it felt like we were never getting any Star Wars content again. And then, lo and behold, the Phantom Menace came around. And so I think we're in a great place with Star Wars personally, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But let's dive right in. Hey, as always, if you're enjoying this content, please be sure to give the video a thumbs up. Please also be sure to subscribe. It really helps with growing the channel. I'm working toward 1,000 subscribers. That's sort of my goal as we get into 2023. So we'll see where I get with that. And my dog Lucy clearly has joined in the discussion here. But anyway, thanks so much for your support. So at this point, we have 4 Star Wars live action TV shows. There's been something with all of these that I've enjoyed, even though clearly there are ones that I think are better than others. And so I'm going to start with kind of my ones that I think are not the best, that maybe could have done some things a little bit better. And so I'm kicking off this list with the Book of Boba Fett. There were some cool moments in this show, and I like the way they developed the character of Boba Fett. But at the same time, a lot of what made this show great relied more on things from The Mandalorian, relied more on things like Luke Skywalker making an appearance, that kind of stuff, Ahsoka being there. So again, there were some good moments in this show, but there were some pretty bad sequences. I can remember in particular a scene where there was a chase sequence and you've got sort of this, I don't know, modern stylized motorcycle gang as it would exist in the Star Wars universe having a chase through the streets, and it was just super slow. It wasn't edited all that well. There was no sense of speed associated with that. That was, to me, kind of a low point in some ways with the Star Wars live action content that we've gotten up until this point. So I didn't particularly love the show, but there were some things that I thought were great. Really, the last, I don't know, 3 episodes or so, and even the conclusion, I thought worked pretty well overall. This one had some good moments in it, some good callbacks. And as a Star Wars fan, I appreciated all of that. But holistically, taking a step back and looking at it as a whole, I didn't think it was the best of the offerings that we've had so far. So third on my list is Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I'm sort of prefacing this by saying that I think there's a big gap, in my opinion, between Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi as a series. This one started out a little bit slow. It took a little while to get going, but I like the character development here. I like that Obi-Wan is in a place where he's kind of given up on the idea of the Jedi, just given everything that's happened. He's sort of disconnected himself from the Force, and he's not the super powerful Force wielder that we've seen in the prequel trilogy at this point because he's been so far removed from it. There's a nice time gap here between what's happening with the prequels and then where we get with this show. But I like the way that they continue to develop his character. I like the way that things progress throughout this series. And really the last 2 episodes I thought were masterful. I thought Vader, the way he shows up in this, is awesome. However, I will say there's a fight in this show on Tatooine, I believe it is, between Vader and Kenobi that I thought was just not that great. It felt kind of like a fan edit sort of film. But the final confrontation between both of them was just super well done. I love Qui-Gon showing up at the very end. I kind of was hoping that would happen. It did. Really great callback to the Phantom Menace and just showing that, Obi-Wan had sort of reached that point that Yoda had alluded to in Revenge of the Sith where he could teach him how to commune with spirits, commune with the Force, that sort of thing. So I thought this show really got better with each episode as it went along, and I thoroughly enjoyed a lot of it. Again, kind of a slow start, but it's a really great Star Wars offering, and it's third on my list. This is where my list might get a little bit controversial depending on your take. So my ranking for the second best Star Wars live action show is Andor. Again, an outstanding show. Great writing, great acting across the board. It gives us sort of a glimpse into a side of Star Wars that we really haven't seen a whole lot except for maybe in Rogue One, which makes sense because that's where this character is being pulled from. This has got some of the best moments in Star Wars, period, I think. The Prison Break episode that we get, the concluding episode also. There's just a lot of really great stuff here that manages to blend stuff from the prequel series with sort of the Senate and the politics going on behind the scenes. This is the first time, in my opinion, that the Empire feels like a legitimately scary thing. I mean, of course, they've got the Death Star in the original trilogy. They can blow up planets, but the Stormtroopers are always kind of a little bit comical. Here, the Empire feels like a legit threatening force, something to really, really be scared of. The only thing about this show that I didn't love was that it felt like it was missing a little bit of the fun of Star Wars, but I get that that was kind of the point, right? I mean, the idea here is that you see the more sort of day-to-day stuff in the Star Wars universe under the thumb of the Empire, the struggles that people are going through to try and find a way to sort of break away from that and to develop the rebellion. And that's really what this show is. It's kind of the rise of the rebellion as we get to see it later in the original trilogy. But just that little bit of absence of fun is what, for me, made it not quite as memorable and great as what my first choice is going to be. And obviously at this point, you know what that is. But again, Andor is a fantastic show. I think it's deserving of any awards it gets. I love what it's done with Star Wars, and I hope it continues for a long time. So my choice, of course, for first place here in these rankings for the best live-action Star Wars shows goes to The Mandalorian. I think everything about it's great. Some people don't like the callbacks to the original trilogy. They don't like that it relies a little bit on, Luke in some of the scenes that we get. I think Grogu is an awesome character. I think the way that they develop the father kind of son relationship, if you want to call it that, between him and Mando is just awesome in this show. The culture of the Mandalorians as they develop it is fantastic. There's some amazing action sequences in it. I think this is consistently the best live action Star Wars show. I have the most fun with it. It gets me the most emotionally invested of all of them, weirdly, even with Andor, which does a really good job with that also. But I think Mandalorian is the best that we've gotten. And again, I think we're in a really good place as Star Wars fans. I mean, we're really getting excellent content. There are some great shows coming down the pike. We've got Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Lando, some other things that are in the works. I think we're just in kind of Star Wars heaven, personally, at this point. So I think that we're getting Mando Season 3 soon-ish. I think that's done filming, and they started filming Andor Season 2. So things are progressing, of course. I'm really happy about it. And honestly, in a lot of ways, the TV Star Wars stuff we've gotten is better than the movies, weirdly, in some ways. So I don't know what's going to happen with the movies in upcoming years. I'm sure Disney is going to put together some new movies, and I know they've got plans for a couple of things that they've shared here and there, but I'm really happy with our TV content. I hope that continues for a long time to come, and even the video game content that we've got. I loved Fallen Order when I played that. We've got Jedi Survivor, which was just teased with a trailer recently. We even saw gameplay with that, so I think we're in a really good place. But let me know what you think about live-action Star Wars shows. Do you totally disagree with my rankings? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching.